Asterisk, the galaxy was alive with whispers, in the grand halls of alien courts, in the dark corners of space stations, and even in the dusty markets of far-off worlds. The same words were being spoken again and again. A human has done it, they whispered. A human has formed the bond. No one wanted to believe it, yet no one could ignore it either. The bond was no ordinary thing. It was sacred, it was ancient, and it was forbidden. For thousands of years, the bond had only existed between alien warriors and their chosen kin. It was a connection of spirit and power, one that allowed two souls to fight as one, share strength, and even sense each other's thoughts. No human had ever been capable of such a thing. Humans were seen as fragile, short-lived, and too wild to hold such energy. But now the rumor was spreading, carried by traitors, soldiers, and spies. They said a human had touched the heart of a warrior, and the bond had awakened, and soon the news reached the ears of the alien queen herself. She sat upon her throne, tall and unshaken, her gaze hard as ice. Her council gathered nervously around her, waiting for her words. "Is it true?" she asked at last, her voice cold and heavy. "Have the laws of our people been broken?" The chamber fell silent. None dared answer at first, but then one advisor stepped forward, bowing his head. "My queen, the rumors come from many sources. Too many to ignore. They say the bond is real." The queen's eyes narrowed. Her sharp claws tapped against the arm of her throne, each sound echoing through the hall like a drumbeat. If this was true, it was dangerous. The bond was not just power, it was history, tradition, and control. It was how her people chose leaders, how they won wars, how they united their tribes. If a human could claim it, everything could change. "Bring the human to me," the queen commanded, her voice like thunder. "Alive," she added. "I will see with my own eyes if this rumor is truth or lie." Outside the palace, the rumor grew even stronger. Merchants told the story in hushed tones, children repeated it with wide eyes. Soldiers sharpened their blades, as if preparing for something bigger than themselves. Some were afraid, believing this bond would bring war. Others were hopeful, whispering that maybe, just maybe, humans were more than the galaxy believed, and the human at the center of it all? He had no idea how much noise his actions had caused. He was not a general, not a king, not even a soldier. He was an ordinary man who had simply shown kindness when it mattered. He had not asked for power. He had not asked for glory. Yet destiny had wrapped around him like chains of fire, pulling him into a story greater than he ever imagined. That night, as stars burned bright above alien skies, the queen walked alone in her private chamber. Her thoughts were heavy, her heart torn between fear and curiosity. "So the rumors are true. You really bonded with the human," she whispered to herself. Testing the weight of those words, she could not yet believe them. But something deep inside told her the galaxy was about to change. Far away on a quiet world, the human slept uneasily. Dreams of fire, battles, and voices not his own filled his mind. The bond pulsed faintly inside him, a connection he did not fully understand, and though he did not know it, soldiers were already on their way. The queen had given her order, and nothing in the galaxy could stop what was coming. The rumor had become more than words. It had become a storm, and at the center of it stood one human, unknown and unready. A human who would soon stand before the alien queen herself. Asterisk, before the bond, before the rumors, before the queen's cold words, the human was just ordinary. His name was Daniel, though in most places across the galaxy, no one even remembered it. To the traders, he was just the helper. To the ship crews, he was the quiet one. And to himself, he was nothing more than a man trying to survive in a galaxy that often forgot humans existed. Daniel lived on a dusty trade outpost at the edge of alien space. The station was old, filled with rust, flickering lights, and the smell of oil and smoke. He worked at a repair dock, fixing broken machinery, patching up ships, and carrying heavy crates for captains who barely gave him a glance. Day after day, his life was the same. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. No glory, no adventure, no destiny. But inside, Daniel carried something he never spoke about. He had a heart that noticed things. When a miner coughed too much, he shared his water. When a lost child cried in the markets, he guided them back to their mother. And when no one else cared, Daniel still did. It wasn't power, it wasn't strength. But it was kindness, and it was rare. The aliens on the station often mocked him. They called humans weak, short-lived, and too simple-minded to matter. Some laughed when he stumbled under heavy weight. Some ignored him when he spoke. But Daniel never raised his voice back, never fought to prove them wrong. He just kept working, kept helping, as if waiting for something unseen. One evening, after another long day of repairing engines, Daniel sat alone by the viewport. Stars stretched endlessly before him, shining like scattered diamonds across black velvet. He wondered if his life would ever change. "Maybe I'm meant for this," he whispered. "Just a quiet life, nothing more." But somewhere deep inside, a small flame of hope refused to die. Then fate came, not with warning, but with sudden chaos. The alarms rang across the station, red lights flashing wildly, voices shouting in confusion. A ship limped into dock, its hull scorched, its shields broken, and smoke pouring from its vents. From the wreck staggered an alien warrior, tall, fierce, and bleeding. Her armor was cracked, her face pale, her steps heavy, and for a moment, the whole station froze. Everyone watched, but no one stepped forward. Alien warriors were feared, respected, but also left alone. This one looked ready to collapse, yet instead of fear, Daniel felt something else. He saw not a warrior, but someone in pain, someone who needed help. Without thinking, he rushed forward, catching her before she fell. Her weight was heavy, her eyes sharp and glowing, but he did not let go. "Easy," Daniel said softly. "You're safe here." The warrior tried to push him away, her pride refusing to accept weakness, but her body trembled, her strength failing, and Daniel's steady hands were the only thing keeping her upright. "Why? Why help me?" she whispered weakly. Daniel frowned, confused by the question. "Because you need it," he answered simply, as if that was reason enough. The station guards finally moved, whispering among themselves, unsure of what to do. But Daniel guided the warrior to the repair bay, laying her gently on a workbench. He tore a piece of his own shirt, pressing it against her wound. Ignoring the hot blood soaking his hands, she stared at him with wide eyes, as if seeing something she had never seen before. Kindness from a human. That night, Daniel stayed by her side, tending her wounds, giving her water, and speaking quietly even though she barely answered. She was different, dangerous, yet he treated her no differently than the child he once helped in the markets. To him, it didn't matter if she was human or alien, strong or weak, she was someone in need, and that was enough. The warrior's name was Sarana. Though Daniel did not know it yet, her life was filled with battles, blood, and endless war. She had been taught that humans were weak, unworthy, nothing but shadows in the galaxy. Yet here, in her darkest hour, one had reached out to her with no fear, no demand, no price. And something inside her heart shifted. Daniel did not know that his act of kindness had already set destiny in motion. He did not know that this night would be remembered in alien courts and whispered in galactic halls. All he knew was that someone needed help, and he had given it. But above them, unseen, the stars seemed to burn brighter, as if watching closely. For in this simple act, the first spark of the bond had been lit. The alien warrior lay on the narrow bunk inside the repair bay, her breathing sharp and uneven. Her armor, once shining with pride, was now cracked and stained with blood. Daniel sat nearby, his hands still trembling from the chaos of the night. He had never been this close to someone like her, someone feared, someone powerful, someone untouchable. Her name, he had learned from the brief words she spoke, was Sarana among her kind. That name carried weight, though Daniel did not know it yet. He only saw the pain in her face. The weakness she tried so hard to hide. Her eyes, bright like molten silver, glared at him, as if daring him to leave. But he did not leave. Instead, he stayed, quietly watching over her, offering her water when her lips cracked with dryness. "Why are you still here, human?" she asked suddenly, her voice low, almost growling. Daniel shrugged. "Because you need help." Her jaw tightened. "You do not understand. You should not be near me. It is forbiddens." The word struck him. Forbiddens. It felt heavy, like a secret chained in her voice. Daniel frowned. Forbiddens? To help someone? She turned her face away, refusing to answer, but the silence told him enough. In her world, bonds of any kind between humans and her people were dangerous. Her kind were warriors, protectors of ancient traditions, and humans were considered lesser. Yet here, in this quiet corner of a dusty station, she was alive only because of him. The unthinkable had already begun. Through the thin walls of the repair bay, Daniel could hear whispers. Dockworkers and guards spoke nervously. "They say she's bonded," one muttered. "Impossible." Another hissed. "A human cannot bond. The energy would tear him apart." But the whispers grew louder, carrying the same word, bond. Daniel did not understand, not yet, but Serana did. And it frightened her. The first time his hand had touched hers as he pulled her from the wreckage, she had felt it, a spark alive and burning, traveling through her veins and into his. It was more than kindness, more than touch. It was the bond, the sacred connection of her people, something that should have never existed with a human. She remembered the old teachings, the warnings passed down for generations. The bond is not a gift to outsiders, it is ours alone. To share it is to break the chain of history. And yet, when the human's hand met hers, the chain had broken. She could feel him even now, his worry, his quiet strength, his strange calmness. Every heartbeat of his echoed faintly in her chest, and it terrified her. "Listen to me," she said suddenly, her voice urgent. "You must leave now, before others see, before they know." Daniel shook his head. "You're hurt. I'm not going anywhere." Her hands clenched the blanket tightly, frustration in her glowing eyes. "You do not understand. If they discover what happened between us, they will kill you, and they will strip me of my honor. Both of us will be destroyed." Daniel was silent for a long moment. Finally he said, "Then let them come. I don't regret helping you." His words cut through her like a blade, not because of defiance, but because of their purity. No fear, no ambition, only honesty. At that moment, a new sound filled the bay, the heavy footsteps of soldiers, their armor clanging against the metal floor. The Queen's orders had already spread, and her guards had arrived. The door slid open, revealing 3 towering figures, weapons in hand, their eyes narrowing at the sight of the human sitting so close to the wounded warrior. "Step away," one guard barked, his voice sharp. "Human, you do not belong here." Daniel rose slowly, his hands raised. "She needs care, not threats." The guards ignored him, their attention shifting to Serana. "Is it true?" one demanded. "Did you bond with this creature?" The word bond hung in the air like a curse. Serana's throat tightened, her pride and fear warring inside her. If she admitted it, everything would collapse. If she denied it, she would be lying against what her own heart already knew. She opened her mouth, but no words came. The guards exchanged looks, and their grips tightened on their weapons. Daniel stepped forward, placing himself between them and her without thinking. "You'll have to go through me first," he said quietly, his voice trembling but steady. The guards laughed bitterly, amused at the human's defiance. But Serana's eyes widened, her chest tightening at the sight. This fragile man, mocked and dismissed by the galaxy, was standing before soldiers of her kind, refusing to back down. For a moment, the room froze, and in that silence, the bond pulsed stronger, undeniable. Serana felt her heart hammering in rhythm with his, and the truth she feared was now real. The forbiddens had already happened. The human and the warrior were bound. The repair bay was tense, filled with silence and the faint hum of the station's lights. The alien guards stood tall, their weapons gleaming, their eyes fixed on Serana. Daniel stood in front of her, his body small compared to their armored frames, but he did not move aside. He could feel the heat of their stares, the danger in the air, but something deeper kept him rooted where he stood. Serana's chest rose and fell quickly, her breaths sharp, her mind torn apart by fear and certainty. The bond pulsed within her, stronger now, undeniable. Every time Daniel's heart beat, she felt it echo inside her, as if their bodies were linked by invisible threads. This was not just kindness anymore. Not just chance, it was the bond, awakened, alive and forbidden. Answer, Warrior 1. Of the guards barked, his voice sharp like steel. Have you bonded with the human? Serana opened her mouth, but the words caught in her throat. Her pride told her to deny it, to protect them both from death, but the bond refused to let her lie. The truth glowed inside her like fire, pressing against her ribs, begging to be spoken. Daniel felt it too, though he could not explain it. A strange warmth filled his chest. Moving through his arms and into his hands, he could sense Serana's fear, feel the way her body trembled even though she sat tall. He whispered without thinking, "It's all right, you don't have to hide." At that moment, the bond flared. Light burst faintly between their hands, soft but powerful, a glow that startled even the guards. The air vibrated, energy humming like a low song. Daniel gasped, staring at his palm as golden sparks flickered across his skin. Serana's eyes widened, her voice shaking. "No, it cannot be." "But it is." The guards stepped back, their eyes wide with shock. "This is madness," one hissed. "Humans cannot hold the bond, it will destroy him." But Daniel did not feel destroyed. He felt alive, more alive than he ever had before. His strength, once ordinary and small, now surged like a river, as though part of Serana's power had flowed into him. He could feel her heartbeat, steady now, no longer weak, no longer fading. And she could feel his calmness pouring into her, steadying her racing thoughts. "This is impossible," another guard muttered, gripping his weapon tighter. "If the Queen hears of this, it will mean death for both." But they had already seen it. They could not unsee it. The bond was real, alive between human and warrior. Serana rose slowly, her wounds still raw but her strength returning through the connection. Her eyes blazed like silver fire, her voice steady now. "You will not touch him," she told the guards, her tone sharp with command. The guards hesitated, unused to such defiance from one so wounded. But there was power in her words, and behind her stood the human, glowing faintly with the same energy. Daniel did not understand all of it, but he knew one thing clearly, whatever this bond was. It was no curse, it was life, it was strength. And it tied him to Serana in a way words could not explain. He felt no fear of her people, no fear of their laws. He only felt that leaving her side would be wrong, and that thought alone gave him courage. The guards finally lowered their weapons slightly, but their voices were full of threat. "This must be reported," one growled. "The Queen will decide your fate." Serana's jaw tightened, her hand brushing against Daniel's for the briefest moment. The energy pulsed again, stronger this time, filling the room with a quiet hum. The guards shivered, unsettled, as though standing before something holy and dangerous at the same time. When they left, the room fell silent again. Daniel sat down slowly, trying to catch his breath. "What just happened?" he whispered, staring at his glowing fingertips. Serana turned to him, her eyes unreadable. "You should not have been able to survive it," she said softly. "The bond kills those unworthy, but it did not kill you. It accepted you." Daniel frowned. "And that's bad?" Serana laughed bitterly, shaking her head. "For me, it means shame. For you, it means death. Our law forbids this. Our Queen will not forgive it." Daniel leaned back, his shoulders heavy but his voice steady. "Then let her come. I won't regret it." His words struck her deeply. Not because of defiance, but because of truth. In her world, no one spoke with such simple honesty. No one risked everything just to stand by another. Yet this human, fragile and mocked by the galaxy, had done it without hesitation, and the bond, the ancient force of her people, had chosen him. As Serana watched him in the dim light, she felt something she had never felt before. Not fear, not duty, but trust. And though she knew the galaxy would soon come for them both, she whispered under her breath, "The bond has awakened." Above the station, stars burned brighter, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. For this was no ordinary bond. It was the first spark of a storm that would shake the throne of the Queen and the fate of two species. The journey to the Queen's throne world was long, but to Daniel, it felt like only a heartbeat. One moment he had been living a quiet life on a dusty outpost, and the next he was standing inside a ship surrounded by alien guards, their eyes cold and unforgiving. Serana stood beside him, silent but watchful, her hands bound with glowing restraints, though Daniel could feel her strength humming through the bond even now. He too wore chains, though lighter ones, as if the guards believed a human was no real threat. The Queen's palace was unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. It rose high above the capital city, made of black stone that shimmered faintly as if alive. The gates opened with a heavy rumble, and the soldiers marched them inside, their boots echoing against the ancient floors. Alien citizens gathered at the edges, whispering as they saw him, their voices carrying the same word again and again: the human. The bonded human. Daniel kept his head high, though his stomach tightened with every step. He had no plan, no defense, only the truth that had already been written into the bond. Serana walked firmly, her face calm, though he could feel the storm inside her, the fear she kept hidden from everyone except him. At last they reached the throne room, vast and silent, its walls carved with scenes of ancient battles. At the far end sat the alien queen, tall and terrible, her crown sharp as blades, her eyes glowing with wisdom and fury. The air itself seemed to bow before her, heavy with authority. The guards shoved Daniel and Serana to their knees. The queen rose slowly, her cloak trailing like a river of shadows. Her voice was low but carried across the hall like thunder. "So the rumors are true," she said gravely, her eyes piercing through Serana. Then to Daniel, "You really bonded with the human." The words froze the chamber. The counselors gasped, the soldiers shifted uneasily, and the courtiers whispered. In disbelief, Serana bowed her head, her voice steady though soft. "My queen, it was not sought. It was not planned. But the bond, it happened." The queen's eyes narrowed. "Do you know what this means, warrior? You have broken the oldest law of our kind. The bond is sacred. It is our strength, our unity, our very identity, and you gave it to a human." Her gaze turned to Daniel, sharp enough to cut through stone. "And you, human, do you even understand what you hold? Do you understand the weight of this bond?" Daniel swallowed hard, his voice quiet but clear. "I don't understand everything, but I know it saved her. And she saved me. Whatever it is, it's real, and I will not deny it." The queen's expression did not change, but the hall erupted with noise. Some shouted for his death, others demanded Serana's banishment. The bond was dangerous, unnatural, a threat to everything they believed. Yet even through the chaos, the bond between Daniel and Serana pulsed steady, a silent reminder that it was not a lie. The queen raised her hand, and the hall fell silent again. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of judgment. "Perhaps you think this bond is strength. Perhaps you believe it is destiny. But I cannot decide with words alone. You will be tested." Her words echoed across the chamber, cold and final. "A trial of loyalty." She continued, "To prove whether this bond is truth or trick, whether the human is worthy of what no other has held. If you fail, you will both die." Serana lifted her head, her silver eyes steady. "We accept," she said, without hesitation. Daniel glanced at her, his chest tight, but he nodded too, his voice firm. I'll face whatever comes, the queen studied them both, her gaze unreadable for a brief moment. Daniel thought he saw something deeper in her eyes, not just anger, but curiosity, even fear. Then she turned away, her voice ringing like steel. Take them to the trial grounds. Let the bond be tested under fire. The guards seized them again. Dragging them from the throne room, the whispers followed louder, now filled with both dread and wonder. The human will die, some muttered, or he will change everything, others whispered back. As they were led through the long halls, Daniel felt Serana's presence through the bond, steadying him, giving him strength. He looked at her, his voice low. What kind of trial is this? Her lips pressed into a thin line, the kind no human has ever survived. Daniel's stomach tightened, but he only nodded. I guess I'll be the first then. Her eyes softened for the briefest moment, a flicker of pride and something more. You are a fool, she whispered, but her hand brushed against his as they walked, and the bond pulsed stronger. In that pulse was not just strength, but trust, and it carried them forward into the unknown. The queen watched from her throne as they were taken away, her claws tapped slowly against the armrest. Her thoughts heavy. She had seen many warriors in her time, many battles, many betrayals, but never had she seen a bond like this. And though her judgment had been given, deep inside she knew the fate of her people was about to change. The trial grounds lay deep beneath the queen's palace, hidden from the city above. The air was cold and heavy, the walls made of dark stone marked by scars from countless battles. Torches burned with blue flames, casting long shadows that seemed to move like living things. Daniel and Serana were pushed into the center, surrounded by a circle of armed guards and high counselors. At the far end of the chamber stood the queen, her tall figure cloaked in black, her crown glowing faintly under the torchlight. Her eyes locked onto them with the weight of judgment. This trial is simple, she said coldly, her voice echoing through the chamber. Prove that your bond is truth. Prove that it makes you stronger than fate itself, or die here before my throne. Daniel felt his chest tighten, but he kept his head high. Serana stood beside him, her eyes burning like silver fire, though inside he could feel her doubt. The bond pulsed, carrying her fear into his heart and his calmness into hers. It was strange, but comforting. As if they were breathing through one set of lungs, the queen raised her hand, and the gates at the far end of the trial grounds opened. From the darkness stepped a beast unlike anything Daniel had ever seen. It was massive, with armored scales, 6 clawed legs, and eyes glowing red like molten lava. Its roar shook the chamber, rattling the torches, sending dust falling from the ceiling. Even the guards flinched, though none dared step back. Serana's jaw tightened, her hand curling into a fist. This is a shadow beast, she whispered, her voice low. Our deadliest trial. It is said no unbonded warrior survives. Daniel swallowed hard, his throat dry. And us? Her eyes flicked to him, uncertain. If the bond is real. Maybe, the beast charged, its claws tearing through the stone floor, as though it were paper. Daniel froze for a heartbeat, fear surging through him like fire. But then the bond pulsed, and Serana's sharp focus filled him, clearing his mind. He moved when she moved, ducked when she ducked, as though their bodies shared the same instinct. The beast's claw slammed into the ground, missing Daniel by inches. Before he could even think, Serana's blade was in her hand, slashing at the monster's leg. The wound was shallow, but the creature roared in rage, swinging its massive tail. Daniel felt her urgency through the bond, and he moved without hesitation, pulling her out of its path just in time. She stumbled against him, their breaths mingling, the bond humming stronger than ever. The counselors whispered among themselves, astonished at what they were seeing. No human should have been able to react like that. No human should have survived even a single strike. But Daniel was not moving like a human alone. He was moving as part of Serana. Their bond was alive, guiding them, uniting them. The beast reared back, flames flickering between its jaws. Now! Serana shouted, and Daniel understood instantly. They leapt together, rolling beneath its belly, Serana driving her blade deep into its soft scales. Daniel grabbed a fallen spear from the ground and thrust it upward. Their strikes landing at the same time, the beast screamed, thrashing violently, but they held on. Their movements won, their will unbroken. For a moment, the chamber glowed with the energy of the bond. Golden light wrapped around Daniel's hands, silver fire around Serana's blade. Together, they struck again, and the beast collapsed with a roar that shook the very walls. Silence followed, broken only by the sound of their heavy breathing. Daniel and Serana stood side by side, covered in dust and blood, but alive. The bond pulsed steady, stronger than ever. Through it, Daniel could feel Serana's pride, and she could feel his quiet determination. The queen rose slowly from her throne, her eyes narrowing. The counselors bowed their heads, whispering in awe. They fought as one murmured. It is true, the bond is real, another gasped. But the queen's face was unreadable, her voice cold as ever. You survived. But survival alone does not prove loyalty. The bond is not only strength, it is sacrifice. Her hand lifted, and the gates opened again. This time, guards dragged another prisoner into the chamber, a young alien boy, barely more than a child. The queen's words fell like stone. Kill him, or die together. Let us see if your bond is worth breaking for mercy. Daniel froze, his stomach twisting. Serana's hands trembled, her eyes wide with horror. The boy was innocent, terrified, his small hands bound in chains. The counselors leaned forward, eager to see what choice would be made. The bond pulsed, heavy with Serana's despair. We cannot do this, she whispered. But if we refuse, they will kill us both. Daniel shook his head, his voice steady though quiet. No. If the bond means anything, it means protecting, not destroying. We will not kill him. Serana's eyes burned with unshed tears, but his certainty flowed into her through the bond. She nodded slowly, her voice firm. We refuse. The queen's eyes glowed brighter, her claws curling against the arm of her throne. Gasps filled the chamber, the counselors shouting in disbelief. But the queen raised her hand, and silence fell again. Her voice was low, dangerous, but carrying something new. You have chosen defiance. And yet, perhaps that is the true test of loyalty. The trial grounds trembled as her words echoed. The judgment was not yet clear, but one truth could no longer be denied. The bond was real, and it was unbreakable. The trial chamber was silent, heavy with the weight of what had just taken place. Daniel and Serana stood side by side, bruised and bloodied, but unbroken. The boy they had refused to kill was taken away by guards, his frightened eyes still fixed on them as though he had seen something holy. The queen's gaze followed every movement, her sharp eyes unreadable, her claws tapping slowly against the arm of her throne. The counselors argued in whispers, their voices sharp and fearful. They disobeyed the order, one hissed. The punishment must be death. Yet they fought the shadow beast and lived, another countered. No human could do that. The bond is real. If this spreads, our laws will shatter. A third whispered, the people will question everything. Daniel felt the storm of voices, though he did not understand their language fully, but through the bond. Serana carried their meaning to him, each word like a shadow pressing against his heart. He looked at her, speaking softly. They want us dead. Serana nodded, her jaw tight. Yes, but they also fear us. The queen rose, her tall figure casting a long shadow across the chamber. The hall fell instantly silent, all eyes fixed on her. Her voice was calm, but every word struck like a hammer. You defied me. You refused to spill blood when commanded, and yet you live. The bond has given you strength beyond reason, and it has guided your choices. Her eyes locked on Daniel, piercing into him, as though seeing his very soul. You human, stand where no other of your kind has ever stood. Do you claim this bond as truth? Daniel's voice was steady, though his heart raced. I do. I didn't ask for it. I didn't even understand it, but I won't deny it. It's real, and I will stand by it." The queen turned her gaze to Serana. "And you, warrior, do you claim this bond knowing it breaks our oldest law, knowing it could destroy your honor and your place among your people?" Serana raised her head, her silver eyes glowing like fire. "I claim it, my queen, because it is not weakness. It is not shame. It is strength, and it is truth." Gasps rippled through the chamber, some of anger, some of awe. The queen stood silent for a long moment, her eyes closing as if weighing centuries of tradition against the single choice before her. When she opened them again, the hall seemed to tremble with the weight of her words. "Then let the law be broken," she declared, her voice like thunder. "Let it be rewritten. The bond between human and warrior is no curse. It is proof that the galaxy is not yet finished with us." Shock exploded through the council. Some shouted in fury. Others bowed their heads in reverence. Daniel felt Serana's hand brush his, the bond pulsing like a living flame between them. For the first time, he saw her smile, faint but real. The queen raised her hand, silencing the noise once more. "But know this, the bond will not go unchallenged. There are those beyond these walls who will see you as a threat. They will come for you. They will come for us. And you must be ready." Daniel straightened, his voice firm. "Then let them come. We'll face them together." Serana nodded, her pride fierce. "Our enemies will learn what unity truly means." The queen's sharp eyes softened just slightly, though her face remained stern. "Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humans for too long. Perhaps it is time the stars learned that even the smallest spark can ignite a fire." The guards stepped back, lowering their weapons, no longer looking at Daniel with scorn, but with something close to respect. The counselors whispered still, but their voices carried a new word now: hope. When Daniel and Serana were led from the trial grounds, the city outside was already alive with rumor. Crowds gathered, their voices rising. The human lives. They cried, "The bond is real." Some shouted in fear, others in wonder. But all knew that nothing would ever be the same. That night, Daniel stood with Serana at the edge of the palace balcony, looking out over the alien world, its towers glowing under the light of 3 moons. The bond pulsed quietly, no longer wild and fiery, but steady, strong, like the beat of 2 hearts joined. He whispered, "I was just an ordinary man, and now..." Serana finished for him, her voice soft but certain. "Now you are the beginning of something greater." Far above them, stars burned like watchful eyes. In the shadows of distant worlds, enemies plotted, fearful of what had been born. But for the first time in history, human and alien stood as one. And their bond was not just between 2 souls, but a promise, a new destiny for 2 species.